Well, greetings and salutations, friends. We are once again broadcasting live from the Apocalypse Cabin. But don't let the name scare you. I'm sure that's just a precautionary title for my cabin. Uh, yeah, things are looking up, actually. It's getting to be springtime, which I always enjoy. There are harsh, harsh winters here. The one thing I don't like about where the cabin is it feels like we have 8 months worth of winter, but it's beginning to subside now. All the snow, just about all the snow everywhere, is melted off. There's still some piles in places, but and it's a lovely 45 outside instead of 10 or 5. So I guess you have to like the positive side of things. Always look on the bright side of life, right? It's warming up, and I'll be able to get some work done outside. So I'm happy about that. Tonight, I thought we'd give another jab at this variety show idea because, well, I have a lot of sort of mini stories to bring you, and we sort of started that format and then didn't really follow up with it. And but it is what it is. Here we are once again, taking a crack at it. So I thought, boy, I was gonna try to darken the cabin and do this with all candles, but that didn't really work out. But we're still gonna try this anyway. We're gonna begin our journey tonight on the dark side. I have been looking into shadow people, and there's nothing really more dark side, if you think about it, than strange entities in the dark. So, friends, welcome to the dark side. Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to Truthseekers. Tonight, we're going on the dark side. Welcome. Yeah, so here we are on the dark side. Shadow people. It's an interesting paranormal phenomenon. And the digger you deep, the digger you deep? No, the deeper you dig. That was odd. It was like my words fell down the steps coming out. The deeper you dig, the more interesting the story sort of becomes. Shadow people are creatures of legend that, of course, exist in the dark. People see them out of the corners of their eyes. And then when you go to get a full view, generally, people see moving shadows. Now, there have also been various incarnations of the shadow people, some taking more recognizable forms other than simple shadow people. The most famous of which is the Hat Man, a shadowy figure with a top hat, of all things. A black top hat or wide-rimmed hat. Also of note is the old hag is part of this legend, which is amazing and interesting to me. People have been seeing ghostly old hags, usually on their backs or on their chests when they wake up sleeping. And also interesting of note to me about this phenomenon is that many of the people that experience these shadow people see the shadow people while they're experiencing sleep paralysis. So in other words, they see these entities and interact with them while they're unable to move or even scream in some cases. Legends of the shadow people have been told in many historical texts and religious texts, including the Bible, which mentions those who dwell in the shadow, those dark ones. The Quran, interestingly, also mentions shadow people, which may have some relation to the jinn, talked about quite often. Well, talked about in the Quran. So I have an article here to share. What are the shadow people? This is from bustle.com. I'll cite fair use. We'll be reading some portions of this. And this was written, I want to give credit where credit was due, by Nina Khan, an article in Bustle about these shadow people. Most of these shadow creatures appear through our periphery vision, and people who see them are often unable to describe in detail the features of these mystical entities, apart from their human-like forms and the occasional reports of fiery red eyes, explained Beyond Science TV. Similarly, in Hollis' book about the shadow people titled The Secret War, she describes them as dark silhouettes with human shapes and profiles that flicker in and out of peripheral vision. But it appears that people have begun to see shadow people in more detail in recent times, perhaps because the beings are, for whatever horrifying reasons, making themselves more seen. More and more people are beginning to see them straight on and for longer periods of time, which also notes the appearance of red eyes on the shadow beings being prevalent. There are, of course, many theories about where the shadow people come from or whether or not they're even real. Skeptics note that seeing shadow people could simply be chalked up to sleep paralysis, which, of course, is straight up terrifying in its own right. Heightened emotional states or sleep deprivation, as people who have experienced these psychological or physiological conditions have noted in correlation with their sightings. So some of these people who are reporting these sightings are in states of sleep deprivation or psychological problems. That could be one theory of where these shadow people come from. I forgot to share the screen. So there is a great graphic for me to share here from this article. What are the shadow people? It's also interesting for me to note that these shadow people appear across, this is one of the reasons I love this story. The shadow people appear to, cross religious lines, geographical lines, cultural lines, racial lines. It appears that there are stories of shadow people in all cultures throughout Earth, which leads me to believe that there may be something to this. Why are so many different people from all around the world reporting similar sightings of similar entities in similar ways and situations? It's a very interesting phenomenon. And we are going to dig deeper and even hopefully talk to someone who has had a shadow person experience multiple times. And that would be on a future show. But for now, I thought our journey on the dark side should just serve as an introduction into what is a really interesting phenomenon. Something that I hope we'll be able to dig and delve deeper into in future episodes. For now, it's enough to say that this shadow people phenomenon is a worldwide phenomenon, and it has been for all of human history. People have reported seeing or experiencing these strange shadow people. Now, there are various theories, the first of which is that these people are just experiencing shadows in their room during a sleep paralysis, event. And of course, being awake but unable to move is certainly terrifying. I think I've had it happen one time, and then one other time I got out of the bed and just fell flat on my face, like my entire body had pins and needles. So I think my brain woke up a few minutes before my body did, and I just jumped out of bed and fell flat on my face. And that was terrifying enough. And then I laid there, like realizing, oh my gosh, my entire body is asleep. Kind of like when you get pins and needles, but my entire body felt that way, like unable to move. It was bizarre. So these, my friends, are the shadow people. And like I said, we should just consider tonight sort of an introduction to the subject. We will be continuing coverage of shadow people, including hopefully discussing someone's shadow person experience with them who has had multiple experiences with shadow people. If, by the way, anyone is within the sound of my voice, if you are listening and you have had an experience with shadow people, or the Hat Man, or the old hag, all related phenomenon, according to most. If you have had experiences with them and would like to come on the show and share your experience, we would all certainly benefit. Please do not hesitate. Contact me at truthseekersshow@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story about seeing one of these entities, the shadow people. Please don't hesitate to contact me. Some of the best shows I think we have are just from listeners who reached out to me and said, hey, I have this story to tell, and we explored it. I love stuff like that. So don't hesitate to contact us, and we would love to hear your story. Even if you would just tell me the story in email and allow me to read it, and you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. Please do send us your stories about the shadow people. Okay, so there we go for story one. And now moving on to story two. One second, friends. I have been wondering lately, or feeling lately, that there really are two classes of people in this world. There are the rich and powerful elite class of rulers, and there are us peasants. And interesting, if you look back in history, you would think, well, that's the way it used to be, kings and queens and nobles and peasants. That's not the way it is now. But yes, it is. It really is that way. And, I try to not feel that way, but I can't help it because if you look at the news, you see these rich, powerful, ruling class people who think that the normal rules of society do not apply to them. They're special, right? They're the ruling class, after all. These people, with their power and their privilege, because that's what it is, they have privileges the rest of us do not have, right? They can get away with things that the rest of us, there's no way on earth we could get away with. So, friends, this is power and privilege. So, friends, it would appear that New York State Governor Cuomo has, really been having a lot of controversies lately, hasn't he? Now, I'm not even going to mention or talk about his role in the current health crisis and where his leadership in the middle of that crisis led for many people and their families, especially if they had older people in their families or people in nursing homes. We're going to skip that subject, and we'll get right to some of these latest allegations of sexual harassment. It would appear that Andrew Cuomo is now up to 9 accusers of some form of sexual harassment. And I can't help but think, 9, and he still has a job. Why does a man who has been accused of having sexually harassed or assaulted or sexually creeped out 9 different women in the workplace, I believe this is all of these people, it is directly related to his workplace and his job. He did this on the clock, right? Folks, I have to ask you, if you at your job were accused of sexually harassing one woman, would you still have a job? I've worked in corporate America where one accusation could get you fired. If there was any, if they weren't sure even, but there was an accusation, you didn't get a day in court. You didn't really get to explain your side of what the accuser said. You'd just be fired. And that's the job and workplace for most of us. Now, let's explore this just a little bit. For many people in the United States of America, one claim of sexual harassment is enough to get you fired. 2 or 3, certainly in most job situations, if 3 different women accuse you of sexual harassment, you're getting fired. But here we have a rich, entitled, power and privileged man in the form of Cuomo who has decided that he's not stepping down. He's not going to resign, and people aren't going to force him out. It's only allegations after all. They're not proven yet. It's only accusations after all. They're not proven yet. But there's 9 women accusing him of very similar forms of sexual harassment. And yet, he still has a job. This, my friends, is the whole reason that I started this segment, Power and Privilege. Why does a certain ruling class of man in our country able to get away with this? Now, it remains to be seen if he is going to get away with it. But for now, he keeps his job. I even consulted. I had a look in my PDF files, and I had like corporate handbook, like employee handbook for most of the corporate jobs that I've had. And I sort of looked up what would happen. And in most cases, you're suspended without pay. At least this is in corporate cubicle land. I don't know if that happens in all jobs, but certainly that sounds reasonable to me. You have all these accusers of sexual harassment. We're going to lay you off without pay while we investigate, and then we'll let you know if you still have a job or not. But Andrew Cuomo is still getting a paycheck after 9 women. 9 women, friends, right? 9 different women. What you have to ask yourself also, and hey, I'm all for due process. Give him his, let him defend himself. Great. Let's hear your story against 9 different accusers, right? At some point, I stop having sympathy for the accused, and I felt the same way with many of these situations, like Weinstein or Cosby. Like after that many women accuse you, you're a creeper. You're a creeper. You got to be a creeper. You had problems with all these different women, and you're going to stand there with a straight face and say, I'm not a sex creeper. Yes, you are a sex creeper. But that's what we have here, friends. Some people just have the power and privilege to be able to do things that the rest of us would not be able to do. Not that we should want to, like, nobody should want to get away with sexually harassing 9 women. But it's interesting to me that some silver-spooned rich boy, and that's what he is, he's been rich his entire life, right? Gets to get away with that, gets to do that with so far without the same consequences that any other person would have to face. If it were you, would you be fired after 9 people accused you of some form of sexual harassment? Would you be laid off without pay at least until they made a decision about whether you were going to continue in your job? Because let's be honest, does any business want a guy who's already sexually harassed 9 women on the job, right? To continue? No, they don't. They wouldn't usually allow that, right? They would get rid of that guy. I've seen somebody straight paid off. I seen in one of my corporate jobs, I seen a guy they just straight paid him. Like, look, we're going to give you a 6 month salary, but you're resigning because we're not going to go through all of this. And he just took the deal and he got his 6 months severance and rolled out. And the way corporate America works is like people can call and verify employment, but the company's not going to tell them why you were let go or what happened. But still, there's consequences. You lose your job. Andrew Cuomo's still sitting pretty, getting that big fat government paycheck every week. While every week, it seems, another accuser comes forward. And you also have to ask yourself, if there are 9 public accusers right now, how many different women did this man do this to that are too afraid or just don't want the hassle, the publicity, or the embarrassment of coming forward and telling their story of what he did to them? There's got to be more. If there's 9, there's 29. I'm telling you, there's more out there. More may continue to come forward as this progresses, right? And this is going to blow up into a shitstorm. I think isn't it Gloria Albrecht already on this? She's going to be on this, suing his ass off. You'll see. It's going to be a circus. And why should the residents of New York allow this circus to take place with this guy? Why don't they just can him and move on? Get somebody that won't be a circus to run things. Because he is incapable of, how's he going to run an entire state while he's in the middle of fighting 9 current accusers, plus all this other stuff? He needs to resign and step down. Is he going to? Fuck no, because he's got the power and privilege to try to ride this thing out. And you and I don't have that power or that privilege. And maybe that's sad, but maybe his situation is sadder because he's so rich, entitled, and privileged. He doesn't even realize, I think, why people are so upset, why he should step down. That smugness is going to come back to bite him, friends. If karma has its way, and I hope it does. So that, my friends, is tonight's segment on power and privilege. I don't know what else to say, except there's no reason that this guy should still have a job. Anyone else would be fired already. But here we are. So finally, one final segment for tonight's show. We're going to, it's funny, I was just talking about we're trying to get away from UFO coverage, but we keep getting back into it. So tonight I have just a follow-up on the Travis Walton story. For those of you that don't know, we recently covered an early witness, a decades-long witness to the Travis Walton abduction, suddenly changing his story. Turns out that it's some sort of dispute over money, but we have more on that now. And the plot thickens, friends. The drama-rama gets even more drama-rama-rama. This, my friends, is the UFO Report. So, Travis Walton, one of the most famous alien abductee cases. We previously covered his story. You can check a previous video. he's very fond of pointing out that he passed lie detector tests until you also realize that he forgets to mention that he failed a few lie detector tests too about his story. I've always kept it in my gray basket, but found it amazing that recently an early witness to his story came forward and said, "I no longer am a witness to the abduction event," or something along those lines. We broke it all down. It turns out that guy's pissed off about money because he's been helping Travis Walton prop up the story for decades. Suddenly they have a dispute about money, and he's no longer going to be helping sell this bullshit story. If it is a bullshit story, and I don't know. I've always kept this one in my great basket. And this, of course, is about Travis Walton. If you haven't, check out the Hollywood film made about the Travis Walton abduction. It's called Fire in the Sky. I think it was a great movie. Creepy, scary, right? Especially the scenes on the spaceship when he meets the aliens and shit. Creepy as shit. I love that movie. And I guess so. I've always wanted to believe the story was real. But recently, one of the main witnesses to it saying, "I'm no longer a witness," that plus the failed lie detector test certainly gives me pause, right? I go, maybe there isn't much to this story. So, friends, I am going to, we found a post that Travis Walton and a whole second part of this story that may explain why his longtime friend decided to no longer be a part of his story. Now, we reported that they were fighting over money. Apparently, Mr. Walton is making a new movie deal and cut his friend, the witness, out of the movie deal, right? That's that person's story, that, he's not getting paid right or Travis Walton recently posted on Facebook, "Thought I'd survey my friends. I received a demand to pay $2,000 by 5 p.m. Friday, March 19th, plus $500 per month until the sender said it was enough. If I didn't submit to the demand, the sender would totally destroy my supposedly spotless reputation. I replied that claiming the money was owed did not make this any less the federal felony of blackmail. He replied that I had zero chance of getting a conviction. Destruction damage to many others has been enormous. Question, should I have paid up?" Now, I've received several unverified reports then that Mr. Walton's former business associate was extorting him. And I've also gotten several sources which have told me that this witness and longtime business associate of Travis Walton was threatening to out him as a hoaxer and a fraudster. And we do see this Facebook post, which would sort of confirm that story, and those sources I have are accurate. However, I want to be very clear in that I am speculating here. We are just telling a story. Both of these gentlemen are free to come on the show and tell their sides of the story, and maybe we'll get to the actual truth. Is Travis Walton being extorted? And if he is being extorted, what dirt does his extorter have on him that he thinks he can get away with extorting him? The plot thickens. Like I said, friends, the first part of the story was Mr. Walton's longtime business associate who had propped up his story for many years, suddenly washing his hands and saying, "I'm no longer a witness to the event." We covered that previously. Now Travis Walton's posting about being extorted. And we know that these two, there are various reports from various sources close to them saying that they were fighting over money. Is this simply a dispute over money? I believe that it is. But I can further speculate that this business partner of Travis Walton's was in on the hoax from the beginning, knows where all the bodies are buried. Well, that's a bad analogy. Knows all the dirt about how the hoax was created, invented, fabricated, for money. It's interesting to note that right from the very beginning, Travis Walton was cashing in on this story. He took money from the National Enquirer. He took more money from the National Enquirer. He wrote a book. He did lecture tours. He was running the UFO circuit, getting paid to tell his story about being abducted by aliens from the very start. He wasn't off the spaceship for 7 days, and he was already making deals with the National Enquirer for his story. This, my friends, leads me to believe that the Travis Walton abduction story is just that. It is a story. It is never going to become a factually proven event. I don't care how many more lie detectors he takes and either passes or fails. I don't care if he gets new witnesses. It will never be proven to be factual and real by any scientific measure. And that makes me a little sad. I love the story. This is kind of like the Bob Lazar story to me. I grew up with this. I love that Fire in the Sky movie. I read his book. And it's also interesting to me that I know several people that before they met Travis Walton were like, he's full of shit, this is a hoax. But then they met Travis Walton and spent some time with him and talked to him, and they found him to be so genuine and appearing to be honest that they changed their mind and said, no, I think something really did happen to him. So back into the gray basket we go with Travis Walton. But interesting developments of late in the Travis Walton story. Is a former co-worker and possible co-hoaxer trying to extort him for money? It would appear so. And, there's two sides to every story. The other part of the story that I heard is that Travis Walton never paid that gentleman for use of all of his sketches in the book that he's been selling for 30 years. And that person may feel that they're entitled to some money from those book sales since the book is filled with his illustrations. Fighting over money with a friend is never fun. By all accounts, they were friends, they were close, and they weren't. And what was the rift was money. So is the Travis Walton story true? Well, we're never going to know. Not definitively. And it is what it is. That's where we have to leave it. In the gray basket. Maybe true, but I can't prove it. Maybe fake, but I can't really prove that. But if I add up the evidence, this is a fake hoax created just to make some money. I think a very convincing part of me thinking it's a made-up hoax for money is that, like I said, not 7 days after he was off that spaceship, he was cutting deals. Less than 7 days. It was like 3 days after he was off the spaceship. He's cutting deals with the National Enquirer to sell his story. I would think that if you were on a spaceship for 5 days, you would be so traumatized. The last thing you would be thinking about is, how can I profit from this right now? Hurry up and sell the story. But that's, again, it's a speculation. But to me, it weighs very heavily on me that he was not out of the spaceship even a week and he was cutting deals for money to sell the story. That leads me to really truly believe that it was a made-up story for money. But again, Mr. Walton is welcome to come here on the show, and we'll explore these things and see what we can say. Now I'll give some attention to the live chat all around. Arbiters here and says, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. PBR Street Gang, 45 years of this story. Yes, BG's says, always money. It's all about the Benjamins, BG's. You know it always is. Brad Gray says Travis should get waterboarded, and we'll see if his story sticks. Now, we do not support or condone torture as a form of getting to the truth here on Truthseekers, Brad Gray. But I have to tell you, if I could. We cannot condone any violent acts against people telling alien stories to get to the real and actual truth. Yes. Brad Gray says the story is still bullshit. Okay. We know how you feel about the story. Yes. Renee Miss Jonaside reminds us once again that her mother knew him both before and after the event. That is interesting. So you're from a similar area as them. Yeah, so any questions or comments for me, please put them in all caps. Otherwise, we really are going to, yeah, no PSD for Travis, All Around Arbiter says. We really are going to try to wrap it up tonight because I have this problem with the um, getting materials. It was raining like hell on the drive in here, and I just said, I'm not, and it sucks because the where I need to get the materials is right on the way into the cabin. But I skipped that, so now tomorrow I have to go into town and get the materials that I need, and I got to do that early. So I'm here at the cabin trying to chill out a little bit. Uh, it's definitely warm enough in here. I've got the wood stove going. It's 40 or so outside. Um, yeah, but I wanted to jump on and try to do a quick one tonight and test out this multi-show format again. Please let me know if you like this multi-story format. We'll continue doing them that way. Otherwise, there's always the long-form interviews that we do here. Usually our interviews run between an hour and 2 hours, most of them closer to 2 hours. So if you like long form, we do that here too. I want to remind each and every one of you that there are two ways really to help us here at the show if you like and appreciate what it is that we do here. First and foremost, I tell everybody this because this costs nothing. Please do like and share these videos. Help us find new friends. I need some friends. I really need new friends. I really do. No, but we do. So you can help us get a bigger bullhorn by liking, commenting, and subscribing. So please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And please send some of our video links to your friends. Please share our channel link on your social media. And really, thank you for helping us grow. It really does help. A few clicks of a mouse, and you could be sharing our video and helping us reach a greater audience. We are not blessed by the YouTube algorithm gods very much here. In fact, sometimes I think we're cursed. And for those that have asked, they still have not turned on super chats. And I don't know that they ever will. I'm hearing horror stories that people have waited a year after they get, for the review to be done. And that's unfortunate because that means no super chats for me, right? And I'm working pretty hard up here and people want to send them and I want to take them, right? So everybody that's sending me a message about that, I'm kind of like, yeah, I want to take your money, but YouTube so far won't let me. But there is another way to do that. We call it the not so super chat donations. Let me see if I can find this thing. Yeah. So if you want to help us and before we get the super chat donations, you can send a PayPal donation at truthseekershow@gmail.com and make sure, please make sure you include your chat room user ID. Just add a note and tell us who you are because you probably don't want me shouting out your real name if PayPal gives me that and not your chat room user ID. Everything that gets sent into the show, either PayPal donation or Patreon, goes directly to helping the show. We just did this Dr. Stephen Greed, and I bought all the supplies from the Patreon and PayPal donations. So thank you all for supporting the show. Okay. And it's so funny. Sometimes I do that pitch and the audience drops, and that's just what happened. So okay, I'll put the tip jar away for now. I get it. It's a rough economy out there, which is why I'm begging for money on the internet, right? Yeah, PayPal takes 30%. YouTube takes more than that, I think. PayPal doesn't take 30. They take, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's less. Yeah. Yeah, Patreon takes a lot now too. Yeah, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. This is the way of the world. I don't have enough power and privilege, Bailey Stoner, so I'm getting, the super chat thing is killing me though, because I know that every show that I did, somebody would send something in the super chat from what I've seen from people with super chat and, similar numbers to mine. But, I'm going to try to not be that concerned with finances for the show because the truth is, thanks to the generosity and the support of the PayPal donators and Patreon people, we have what we need to produce the show, right? We have all the software we need, computers, microphones, webcams, whatever it is that I need to produce the show. It's sufficient. There's just nothing left for me at the end, but it is what it is. I would do this for free because I love to, I just love doing this show so far. It's been a hell of a ride, right? Yeah. Oh, I did not know that. Bailey Stoner was a software engineer there from 2016 to 2018 or so. I didn't even know you were a software engineer. That's my people. I am such a computer nerd. Yes, I do have Patreon. And by the way, it's in the About section. It's in the links in the About section. If you would like to be generous and donate either on Patreon or PayPal, the links are both in the About section. It's just one click and you're there. Otherwise, just search for my name, Stephen Cambion, on Patreon, or it's truthseekershow@gmail.com to send it to PayPal. And I said we were going to be done with that. Yeah, tip hat, but there we are. Bailey Stoner, yes, every log here. Every log I cut, every log I placed. This place is a 1,000-piece puzzle made out of logs and trees and trash. And it's good that you're looking into building one. I highly recommend it. One of the best things I've ever done in my life is build this cabin. I was scared to do it for a while. I was afraid of so many different things. And this has helped me at every different, not just building the cabin. It's like been such a learning experience for me, learning to overcome obstacles, learning to learn new skills if I need to, because I can't afford to pay an electrician. So I'm going to learn how to wire those outlets. And I feel like such a better person after 2 years. 2 years in here, I have learned so much stuff, right? I mean, I learned how to insulate a cabin. I learned how to build walls out of logs and mud and cement. I learned how to frame windows. I learned how to do roofing. I did all the roofs here. I did the shed, the firewood shed, and the cabin. I did all the roofs. I've slowly learned to adapt and overcome. That's what I keep trying to do here. And I'm very close to being able to finish this stupid cabin. But it's going to be one of those things, like, I don't think it's ever going to be finished. I'm already thinking about putting one more addition, because I have one more space that I can put an addition out the back here. And that would be an actual recording studio and streaming studio. So that's very attractive to me. Like, let's build a room for that. Yeah. But I highly recommend, and it doesn't have to be a cabin. Maybe if you wanted to sail across the Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean in a sailboat, or sail the Caribbean, or, see Europe or the pyramid, whatever that dream that you have is that you're kind of afraid to do, pull the trigger. Life is short. Life is too short to sit around waiting and thinking that you have time. Because remember, our numbers can be punched at any time. I think this current health crisis has kind of woken up some of us to that, right? I refuse to go to my grave with anything on my bucket list, anything major. And the cabin was one big thing. I always wanted to do this. Lately, I've been thinking about it, though, and like, an old friend reminded me that at my parents' summer cottage in Jersey, we had this little shack near a lake that, was like sort of handed down from my mom's family to us. And but it was kind of off in the woods, and I would go off in the woods and build forts, right? And out of sticks and trees and nails that I found around or pulled out of stuff, and build these forts in the woods. And lately, I kind of laughed to myself and thought, I just keep building forts in the woods, but this one got a little out of hand, right? So that boy in me that wants to go into the woods and just build a fort is still right here and having a ball. I am having a ball here. I enjoy. It's hard work. It was so hard building this place, but I have enjoyed it immensely. So, friends, I hope that you enjoyed this multi-show format. I want to try it again. I think it's a good way to do the show, because a lot of times we have stories that can't fill a whole show from. I mean, they could, but better to, cover multiple stories sometimes, I think. So, friends, we're going to call this one a quick one, and I apologize for that, but I have some other things that I have to attend to. Oh, I did want to mention for the Patreon supporters, I uploaded the March 2021 journal that everybody gets for being a Patreon supporter. And I also uploaded the first song from my new album. It's really a demo, but I'm sure that song, once it's worked on a little further, will end up on my new music album that I talked about starting. That's going okay. Well, it depends on what day you ask me. So you get the first sneak preview. And Genocide says it was good. Thank you. I appreciate that, Genocide. I've heard no feedback at all, and that's a little scary. Like, well, here's the first song that I can let some people hear, and nobody said anything to me, which gives me anxiety. But I'm glad that you thought it was good. Let's hope a few more people do, so I get over my anxiety and just do what I need to do to make this album happen. All Around Arbiter says, seize the moment. Yeah, absolutely. Seize the moment. Carpe diem. Yeah. I'm like I said, I'm real big on like, just gotta find a way. If there's something that you really want to do, you gotta find a way. And I just talked to an old music friend, and he said, boy, if we had known back then that you'd be like sitting in some cabin in the woods you built talking about aliens, you wouldn't have believed somebody if they told you that. And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Life is funny sometimes and you go in strange directions, but I really wanted to do a show like this. That's another thing. This is another thing off my bucket list. Years of listening to talk radio and Art Bell and other things and going, I want to be that guy. I want to try that. I think I could do that and do it a good job. Finally pulling the trigger, and from radio to here we are in video land now. So it's been a real cool evolution. And like I said, it's funny to see where life takes you sometimes, right? Yes. And F-Graph 7-2 says, good stuff, Stephen. Enjoy the night. Yeah, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to get something to eat and hit the sack. That's my plans. That's my exciting plans but to me, it feels like Friday because I don't have my kids, but it's Wednesday night. So I'm going to try to just go to bed and, tomorrow's another day. I've accomplished some things today, including spending some time with you guys, which I'm always happy to do. I'm a little annoyed if I can't do a show that day for whatever reason. I always feel better to go and do a show. And then I feel like I accomplished at least that. I put that out there into the universe, and that's an accomplishment for the day. And sometimes that's enough, right? Sometimes that's really enough. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion, once again broadcasting live from the Apocalypse Cabin. I'm always happy when there's an audience. I can't thank you enough for coming here tonight and being a part of mine. Until next time, friends, good night and God bless all of you.